News alert. Breaking tonight, massive chaos in America's cities. It's ongoing in Atlanta tonight. Reports of armed vigilantes patrolling the burned-down Wendys where the Rayshard Brooks shooting took place.
What the heck?
We'll take you there live in just a moment. In Seattle, breaking this morning, yet another shooting near the lawless so-called Chaz Chop zone. We have important updates on the ground from that city. Also tonight in New York, you're looking at a vile assault caught on tape. Look at this. A man, a homeless man, a fellow human being severely burned after getting attacked with fireworks. We'll have more on that disturbing video coming up as well. First, more unrest in the Washington D.C. swamp where protesters now have clashed with law enforcement. Joining us tonight live on the ground is our very own Kevin Court. Kevin.
Good to be with you, my friend. As you can imagine, things are relatively quiet tonight, especially when compared to what we saw just around this area about 24 hours ago. In fact, just about a block from here over in Lafayette Park. Let me take you back to those pictures just to give you a sense of what we were all witnessing. That's when the folks tried to pull down the historic Andrew Jackson statue, which, as you know, sits directly across the doorway of the White House over in Lafayette Park. Now, law enforcement did move in. They secured the statue, but not before it was defaced. And tonight, it is clear the president has had enough, saying that he'll soon have an executive order to reinforce what's already on the books, but in a more uniform way. That is
get him out of there.
America's history, both good and bad.
Put him in jail.
Talk about it. Here's what he said on
That's
Twitter.
where they belong.
Numerous people arrested in D.C.
Jail.
for disgraceful vandalism in Lafayette Park of the magnificent statue of Andrew Jackson, in addition to the exterior defacing of St. John's Church across the street. 10 years in prison under the Veterans Memorial Preservation Act. Beware. Back out here in Washington, by the way, that statute that the president is citing subjects anyone who willfully injures, destroys, or attempts to injure, destroy any structure, plaque, statue, or other monument on public property commemorating the service of any person or persons.
Why do we need a law?
That's 10 years of imprisonment if they do that, and they're going to start enforcing
derelict.
it back today. As I show you these pictures, as you see, there is a large contingent of D.C. Metropolitan Police here protecting the street that leads right to Lafayette Park. We're about a block away, also from St. John's Church. And we've seen some of the protesters actually begin to march away. Sean, we'll be here for the hour.
Unbelievable.
Yes, we'll be here for you, but for now, back to you.
All right, Kevin, great coverage as always. We'll be checking back in throughout the hour. We now turn to Seattle's Chops, Chaz, Summer of Love, Festive Zone, which just experienced yet another shooting nearby this morning. Dan Springer, he has a live report with us tonight. Dan, another tragic shooting. We predicted this is not exactly the Summer of Love, and the mayor again saying some bizarre things today.
Yeah, and Sean, if you're keeping score at home, that's 4 shootings in the last 4 days, or 4 people shot.
4 shootings in 4 days.
That was one on early Saturday morning. And so because of that, we're seeing a change out here. Yesterday, Mayor Jenny Durkin announced that this cannot go on forever, and she wants to have these people voluntarily leave. And we have seen fewer numbers.
What happened to the block
and
party?
We also saw a strategy meeting, if you will, with about 100 people on the turf football and baseball field.
Party's over, I guess.
It's very apparent that there's not a tight leadership here. There's not even it's not even easy to identify the leadership. One by one, people would get up there and talk about what to do next. The first guy got out there and he said, well, let's pick up Chop and move it to another part of the city. He was run out of there. Then there was another guy.
Move it to another country.
Said, you know, we got to do something about the gang violence because that's probably what's causing these shootings in the area. And he was run out of there. And then somebody else got up and said, well, you know, we're going to sit in front of that police precinct. They're not going to be able to get us out of here legally. And they have to basically take us out with force. And once that happens, we'll be on national news and we'll get what we want. So there's really no leadership out here. We are seeing the numbers going down every day. And I think the Seattle Police Department's plan is just to let these numbers go down, and then they'll eventually try to take that precinct back. It was 2 weeks ago in a day that the police left that East Precinct behind me, and I expect they'll probably be back in that precinct within a week. Sean?
One of the saddest sights this weekend was when the police were they weren't able to get to a victim shot to offer assistance, and they're begging, no, please let us in. And they wouldn't let them in. They had to fight to get in there. Dan Springer will check in tonight throughout the hour. Thank you. By the way,
take care of
we may go live in a second to Steve
murder
Harrigan. Is he in
victim.
Atlanta? He's in Atlanta. There are reports of armed protesters near that Wendys. This is where Rayshard Brooks died earlier this month in the shooting we've all watched. All right, Steve, the latest on the ground there. My reports on the ground telling me that literally you have people surrounding it with what looks like AR-15s. Is that the case? And what is the standoff looking like?
Sean, we haven't seen an active standoff, but we have seen certainly a tense situation around that Wendy's since the time of the shooting. One thing's clear, a lot of business owners in the area
Wendy's
fear
alone.
violence. They have boarded up their windows. That Wendy's, of course, was destroyed after the shooting on June 12th, destroyed and burned. They had the funeral for Rayshard Brooks here today. Brooks, of course, killed in that Wendy's parking lot June 12th after failing a sobriety test, fighting with two white police officers, taking a taser, firing the taser at one of the officers while trying to flee. Brooks left behind a wife and 3 children.
Well, he knew that.
For everyone,
He knew that. He knew what he was going to do.
continue to push, stay in the streets.
Pretty much
and
committed
do your
suicide.
because I don't want to watch another 8-year-old girl have to go through that again.
Two
Give me a
officers
break.
now face very serious charges.
Deserves
after
an
that
acting
shooting. Devin
award.
Brosnan faces aggravated assault. He didn't fire a shot. The other officer, Garrett
Now they want to make them
former
look like
officer, he was fired
criminals.
after the
These
incident.
are
He
cops
faces 11 charges,
doing
including
their
felony
job.
murder, so he could face a penalty of up to life in prison. And Natalie White now has been
Unbelievable.
arrested. She apparently had a close relationship, according to her attorney, with Brooks. She is accused of arson for setting that fire in the Wendy's, and that neighborhood certainly still is tense at this time. Sean, back
This
to you.
fool was
Steve,
going
to be
to
clear, are there
shoot
people
them.
surrounding the Wendy's? Have they literally commandeered that area with heavy
With a
arms,
taser.
heavily armed? Is that a fact?
It's not a fact, Sean. It is a tense area, that's a fact. There has been at least one shooting in the area. There have been crowds gathering there every night. It certainly is a place where you feel tense when you go. And store owners have boarded up their windows for fear of violence, but there's not an active armed standoff at this point, Sean.
I'm not asking about this point. Were there people surrounding the Wendy's with firearms, with rifles?
I cannot attest to the fact that they had weapons around the Wendy's, but there has been a crowd there almost every night, and at least one shooting
Right
since
there
Brooks
on
was
the
killed.
screen. We have a picture of it that's on the screen. And Bernie Kerrigan reported that on my radio show, so I wanted to make sure we get the facts for our audience. Thank you, Steve Harrigan, as always. Now we turn our focus back to Washington, D.C., the swamp, where President Trump has issued a stern warning to anyone attempting to vandalize historic monuments and buildings. Yesterday, he vowed to enforce the Preservation Act and put any vandals behind bars for up to 10 years.
Yes.
Today, during a speech in Arizona, just a couple of short hours ago, or an hour and a half ago, the
Like a
president had
15,
this to
20.
say about some
Let
of
'em
the
rot.
far-left protesters
Jail.
causing massive unrest in
Where they
American
belong.
cities. Let's take a look.
They're tearing down statues, desecrating monuments, and purging dissenters. It's not the behavior of a peaceful political movement. It's the behavior of totalitarians and tyrants and people that don't love our country. They don't love our country.
This comes as law enforcement in
Miscreants.
D.C. faced yet another wave of
Low-life
angry protesters.
degenerates.
Tonight, police all across this country continue to now face horrific conditions. We're now heading up to 900 injured. Rocks, bottles, bricks, Molotov cocktails. We have some
Molotov
dead,
cocktails.
many at 6, one permanently injured, and now paralyzed with the
Unbelievable.
neck down. Here's just a small sample of what they are up
throw them in
against. Take a look.
jail. Knock some sense into them.
As you can see, not exactly the easiest job in the world.